Half of Americans believe news outlets misinform the public. Sweden to give $7.6 million to Rohingya refugees for cleaner energy. As death toll nears 44,000, Turkey seeks tents for survivors. In the aftermath of the earthquakes, 2 London mosques receive hate. Germany to report on Israeli firms' manipulation of elections. And 15 million at risk from catastrophic glacial lake outbursts. From Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Saamiyah Syed. Our top story tonight: half of all Americans believe news organizations intend to misinform, mislead, or persuade the public, according to a poll released Wednesday. According to the Gallup and the Knight Foundation survey of about 5,600 respondents, 53% said they have a very or somewhat unfavorable view of the news media. While opinions of the national news media were down across the political spectrum, they were acutely low among Fox News viewers, who are typically Republicans. The poll comes amid widespread distrust of the U.S. news media, as several outlets, particularly national television networks, seek to boost viewership. In contrast to national news organizations, most Americans continue to believe that local news outlets care about the effect that their reporting has on their audiences. More than half expressed confidence in the ability of local outlets to report what the public needs, while 44% said local outlets do not intend to mislead. That is nearly double the amount who expressed the same of national news organizations. The shooter who killed 10 Black people in a racially motivated killing spree at a supermarket in Buffalo, New York, was sentenced Wednesday to life in prison. At his sentencing hearing for the attack at a Tops grocery store last May, CNN reports that Peyton Gendron said, "I did a terrible thing that day. I shot and killed people because they were Black." Gendron pleaded guilty in November to state murder and domestic terrorism charges. While handing the sentence, Erie County Court Judge Susan Egan said there is no place for you or your ignorant, hateful, and evil ideologies in a civilized society. Gendron allegedly planned the attack for months. He selected the grocery store because it was in an area with the highest concentration of Black residents near his home. The Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, is accusing Southwest Airlines of denying a worker's request to attend Friday prayer, then firing him when he took a day off for it. In a complaint to the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission, CAIR said the carrier fired Justin Mavins, a former ramp agent at Baltimore-Washington International Airport. This was after the company's accommodations team said he couldn't switch shifts to attend Friday prayer, which is a religious obligation for Muslims. During the company's December meltdown, he then used a personal day to go to the prayer and was fired shortly after. Southwest Airlines has had issues with CAIR before. In 2021, the group said Southwest discriminated against a Muslim woman wearing a hijab. In 2016, a Muslim passenger was removed from a flight after speaking Arabic on the plane. A man accused of trying to burn down the former mosque of the Islamic Center of Tacoma in the state of Washington has been deemed incompetent to stand trial. Angel Joseph Rodriguez was found capable of understanding the charges against him. However, according to records filed in Pierce County Superior Court, he was unable to assist in his own defense due to mental illness. Court records note that he subscribes to far-right conspiracy theories and said in interviews with psychologists that the devil and the government steal his thoughts, read his mind, and exert control over his behavior. Rodriguez is accused of setting the mosque on fire last October 11th. No one was injured, and congregants who were about to begin the evening prayer were able to get out safely after they smelled smoke in the house of worship. The antifreeze container Rodriguez allegedly threw onto the building ignited a fire that burned through the roof and caused significant damage. Rodriguez was charged with first-degree arson that same month, but the charge was dismissed in January. That was when he was ordered to undergo an evaluation for involuntary commitment to a state psychiatric hospital. The community moved to a 69,000 square foot building last year, but say they plan to rebuild the old mosque. On Wednesday, Sweden announced that it will donate over $7 million for a cleaner cooking energy and environment program in Rohingya refugee camps in Bangladesh. Sweden's ambassador to Bangladesh, Alexandra Berg von Lind, made the announcement following a 2-day visit to the camps in Cox's Bazar. That is where Bangladesh has been sheltering over 1 million Rohingya refugees since 2017, when they fled genocide by the Burmese army in their native Rakhine state. Liquefied petroleum gas will be provided to 190,000 refugee households, preventing Cox's Bazar from emitting over 400,000 tons of carbon dioxide. The initiative is part of the Safe Access to Fuel and Energy Plus Phase 2 program. That is a joint UN initiative involving the Food and Agriculture Organization, the International Organization for Migration, UNHCR, and the World Food Programme. Germany is looking into media reports about an Israeli company manipulating elections in over 30 countries, a government spokesman said on Wednesday. According to an international investigative team, the firm, which uses the codename Team Jorge, had manipulated elections worldwide for money. The company is based in the Israeli city of Modin, which is about halfway between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. The media reports are based on 6 hours of secretly recorded conversations in which company boss Israeli businessman Tel Hanan and his team outlined their services. The team has so far interfered with 33 national election campaigns and votes, including in Kenya and Nigeria, the media report said. Hanan and his group controlled an army of more than 30,000 bots, profiles on social medias that are not backed by real people, British daily The Guardian reported on Wednesday. With the help of a smear campaign and stolen information, public opinion was specially influenced, the report said. Hanan charged between $400,000 and $600,000 a month for his services. The Israeli businessman has denied any wrongdoing. The report did note that not all claims could be independently verified. A story on the death toll nearing 44,000 and Turkey seeking tents for survivors comes with details after the break, so stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Over 40,000 people are confirmed dead in last week's earthquakes that hit Turkey and northwestern Syria. Turkey has since launched a worldwide hunt for tents to house quake survivors as hundreds of thousands remain without shelter following the disaster. The country is in desperate need of winter tents as temperatures continue to plunge below 41 degrees Fahrenheit in some of the quake-hit areas. The freezing conditions have added to the risk of hypothermia for many survivors, especially those who could still be alive under the rubble. Meanwhile, officials say that Pakistan and China, the two largest tent producers in the world, authorities will focus their efforts to obtain and ship more cargo from those countries. In an interview on Thursday, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif promised that he would meet with his country's manufacturers and task them to produce winter tents as quickly as possible with the highest quality. Pakistan has already sent out thousands of tons of humanitarian aid, but the number of tents isn't clear. Saudi Arabia plans to establish 3,000 temporary houses for the victims of 2 deadly earthquakes that jolted Turkey and Syria last week. Iran has since sent 1,000 tents. At least 2 mosques in London have received Islamophobic letters following the earthquakes in Syria and Turkey. Erkin Güney is chairman of Masjid Ramadan Mosque in Hackney, which has sent 300 aid boxes to Turkey and Syria in the relief effort. He said he received a letter that said its author could not stop smiling seeing the footage of the disaster. They also wished for another earthquake and more deaths, saying the more Muslims that suffer, the better. Police confirmed another mosque in Stoke Newington also received a letter with racist and Islamophobic language. But Gyune said he has also received hundreds of supportive messages. He told the BBC this week that we are all still in a state of shock and grief. I cannot comprehend how someone would take time out of their day to formulate such poison. The Xinjiang Police Files Person Search Tool was unveiled on February 9th by the US-based nonprofit Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation. It contains searchable personnel records of 830,000 individuals included in the Xinjiang police files, where the Chinese government has brutally cracked down on Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslim minorities. It is a cache of millions of confidential documents hacked from Xinjiang police computers. The tool allows anyone to enter names in Chinese characters or national ID numbers to find out details about detainees in files that date from 2017 to 2018 at the height of the Chinese government's repression of Uyghurs. The data was sent anonymously to Adrian Zenz, Director of China Studies at the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation. Zenz has been documenting China's abuses against Uyghurs for years. It confirms Beijing's human rights abuses in the region and provides more evidence of the repression of Uyghurs. The Chinese government has repeatedly denied committing rights abuses in East Turkestan, which it calls Xinjiang, and has angrily denounced Zenz and his findings. Close to 15 million people around the world are at risk of catastrophic flooding due to melting glaciers. According to a study published Tuesday in the journal Nature Communications, there are people that live within 30 miles of a glacial lake. Worldwide, glaciers are melting at an alarming rate, leaving massive pools of water in their wake. This meltwater creates glacial lakes that could burst and create deadly conditions for millions living downstream, sending water and debris rushing down the mountains. Over half of those affected are concentrated in India, Pakistan, Peru, and China. The study is the first that looks specifically at the potential impact of glacial lake outbursts, which experts say cannot be overstated. Coming up after this break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned and we will be right back. Welcome back. It's time for our in-depth analysis segment. Let's watch.
Tyre Nichols' death and the video which we all watch, I mean, the person is calmly saying, okay, I am on ground. He says, you guys are really doing a lot right now. He says, I'm just trying to go home. He was just close to his home. Stop, I'm not doing anything. These are the phrases for this innocent young man. Now, what in the world can be done to stop these type of things happening again and again and again? We have with us Dr. Matthew Fogg. Welcome to Muslim Network TV.
Good to be with you.
Dr. Fogg is retired Chief Deputy U.S. Marshal. Dr. Fogg, it is hard to look at that situation and talk about, anything will make a difference. People say popular reform ideas include hire more black cops. These were black cops. Make police wear body cameras. Thanks God they were wearing body cameras. Give them better gun training, ban the chokehold. None of this is applicable. Are there some reforms which can stop these things happening again and again? I mean, what in the world we can do to deal with this human brutality here?
Having been in law enforcement for many years, and also I'm both an advocate for police reform, reimagining police, and understanding the culture that exists right now. The culture is one that first, let me just say this. Basically, it's law enforcement where myself and many other law enforcement officers understand Black lives don't matter the way white lives and all lives should matter. And when we come into this culture, we begin to see that whether you get the proper training, I went through the federal law enforcement training one of our best facilities in Glencoe, Georgia. You learn all of the right ways to do everything. But I always remember when I got to my duty station, the first thing my manager told me, and I was this rookie coming on board excited, and he said, Fogg, I know you learned all that stuff at the academy. He said, but let a lot of that go because this is how we do it here. And I'll never forget that. And I came on in 1978. And basically what was happening was I learned real fast there was a culture in place. We do it, they do whatever they want to do. They do things in a certain way. Like, for example, one of the things they used to say, if you run from the police, they're going to beat you behind. They use the other word. They're going to beat you behind. Ain't no giving up. They're going to beat you. Now, that wasn't in our training. If we caught the person, you subdued them, you secured them, arrested them, whatever you had to do. But not just simply beat them because they ran from you. But that's what, and I noticed that this sort of culture of indifference and violence occurred in urban neighborhoods. You better not lock up somebody white or go in their neighborhood and do something like that because we all knew the scrutiny we would face. So yes, it is a culture in place. And I think what is happening is when we see these videos, and people have to understand, the videos are the tip of the iceberg. If this man, if Nichols, if they had not caught that on video, we would not be having this conversation today. I think everybody, I mean, come on, we all can see that. George Floyd, Eric Gardner, and we can go on down, Michael Brown. We can just go on and on and on and name the incidents that were caught on video. So the key here is this. Everybody has to come to the reality that America's culture in law enforcement is a culture that is basically anti-African American or Black. And that culture works in that direction. I'm a victim of it myself in the sense of having to have filed a race discrimination complaint against my employer back in 1985. And here it is today, we're still dealing with that complaint from a class action perspective of involving 10,000 employees or applicants going all the way back to 1994. So that says to you, it is something that is there. And no matter what you do to try to fix it, if you don't get it at the top, from the president on down, where there is mandates put in place, zero tolerance, the same way we deal with sexual harassment. If we dealt with race discrimination the same way we dealt with sexual harassment, it would go away. But because people would know something would be done immediately. So these officers that we see doing what they were doing, I can guarantee you they got a history of it.
Will there be some, the quick action by the Memphis leadership? Is it going to have some lasting impact on police officers to be careful?
Again, that's part of the culture. The leadership has been one of the reasons why the culture stays in place, because most command and control, you're in a command and control environment. I'm myself the chief, or I dealt with in management in the marshal's office. And you want to have support of the rank and file, those people who you got to supervise, because they can make or break you as a manager. So, but what happens, especially in the Memphis situation, once it was caught on video, it was just like the Rodney King incident. Once it's caught on videos, a lot of those managers who ultimately or all the time protect these rogue employees, if it gets caught on video, now they got to answer for it. Now there has to be swift action. So everybody says, it goes up in arms. Oh, this is terrible. This is horrible. This is just a few bad apples, and all of those type of expressions that we hear. But we know as law enforcement, we know it's much deeper than a few bad apples, because even if you're not a bad apple, if you know these officers are doing this, you're complicit in those bad apples doing what they're doing. So that makes you part of this whole culture network that continues to grow. So yes, management is taking an active role to do something now because it's been caught on video and public is up in arms about it. That's what is bringing some type of right now, what we call justice, if we want to call it that. That's what's creating this groundswell.
So that is after the fact. A person is lost, he will never going to come back. What about preventing? What reforms, what decisions can avoid this thing happening again and again? Okay. Dr. Fogg, punishing officers after the fact not going to bring those people back who are lost. What type of reforms can prevent these things happening again and again?
Well, and back, we're dealing with, when you're talking about reforms, again, until you hold top management accountable to say zero tolerance. If this stuff occurs under your watch, not only will the person that did it, but you're going to have to answer. Now, what happens is managers will step in and let their men know, I don't care what happens, you don't do this. That's one of the things I used to say. I used to tell my guys, I said, let me tell you something. If you didn't know, if you thought he had a gun, you can't be thinking and kill somebody because you thought. I said, you get out the way until you know. The point that I'm making is you have to have direct action from the top going down. And that's not what has been happening in these police departments. A lot of them are simply reacting to incidents and quickly saying, oh, those were bad cops. Those were a few bad apples. It's not everybody bad. But when you got a culture in place, what I would always say was everybody's bad, because either you involved in it from a physical standpoint or you're complicit in knowing that it's occurring and you haven't taken a step to fix it. Now, you got the blue wall of silence and you have repercussions. There are a lot of officers like myself who've lost their job. Things have occurred to them because they spoke up. So you have to have support to when officers see something and they know if there's a bad officer out there, he can go report that officer and don't have to worry about his career being destroyed.
Dr. Fogg, this thing about running away, when a person knows that people, he get killed. People see videos all over. A black man get beaten. So black man is running for his life. Why that is such a crime that the type of brutality will show? Person is running for his life.
Well, but the officer, see, if I stop somebody, really, I'm supposed to be the integrity. I'm supposed to be the good person. I'm supposed to be able to stop you as a law enforcement officer, and you should respect me for that. But if the culture is such that what it is that a guy feels like if he gets pulled over by the police, there's nothing good going to come out of it for him, then that fear may pop in and he may run. Or you may run because maybe you did do something wrong. But that doesn't give me as a police officer a right to use excessive force, even if I have to track you, run you down. That's why we do the exercise and we do the physical restraints. We learn how to be physical in things and use whatever force is necessary. But if I got to chase after you and I'm angry with you because you ran away from me, that does not give me the right to assault you and beat you. I caught you. I used whatever force it was to subdue you, restrain you, and that's it. But what happens is in the culture, no, and especially for black people, we find again, I knew when I came on this job, if I stopped a car with black folks in it, whatever I said they did, most of the time, my manager, supervisors, and everybody else, the court system, everybody would take my word on it, even if I was lying. They would just take my word on it. It wouldn't be a lot of scrutiny. Now, you stop somebody white, and we all, even as black officers, we knew if you don't cross your T's and dot your I's, you don't know who they know, you don't know what kind of attorneys they can get a hold of, what kind of influence they have, and where your career may wind up going. So you see, again, that culture says, and much as we hear that expression, Black lives don't matter, in reality, that's what I have observed has been the process being in this field.
Dr. Fong, one of the questions I have is that you mentioned the word culture. where this culture of brutality comes from, when 5 people beating the person into pulp and killing him, and then not providing any aid for 20 minutes. So this culture of brutality.
Well, again, that's all a part of that's the way the culture operates. It's the what is it? Like we call the shark in the water, the blood effect. Once the sharks smell blood, then everybody converges. And in this culture, each officer, they look out for each other because you have to depend on these officers to back you up. So if you're doing something, you're beating someone, you're using excessive force, a lot of times other officers will jump in, because if they don't, and they may be looked at as, okay, he was scared, or he wasn't backing me up, he wasn't supporting me. So now they use these little expressions, and they would say, he's got a gun, or he's resisting. They start yelling out words because they want to have a reason to hit you. So these are all the things that you learn. I tell people, I said, if you go to the academy and you learn all of the right ways to do something, you're also learning all the ways you can do things and get away with it. Because you're learning all of the things, that the evidence you need, the probable cause, the things you need to make an arrest. So once you learn that, you learn how you can also skirt around that stuff and create probable cause, create the things that don't exist because you want to make that arrest. So when you got something like that going on in a culture like this, you have to have watchdogs watching the watchdogs. You have to have oversight upon oversight, especially in urban and areas where people seem like those lives just don't matter and you can get away with it. And who's going to care? Because most people don't have the financial, the support to get attorneys and so forth. So that. Whatever we say that person did, they're pretty much going to be stuck with it because there's no way they can fight it.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Fogg, for your time. Truly appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.
That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.